All right, so we've been talking about batteries. This whole chapter we were talking about batteries, and we're going to talk about a couple of more um, types of processes that don't really, they're not really alternative. I mean, they are alternative energies, but well, anyway, they're in this chapter instead of the previous chapter. And one of these is something called a fuel cell. Now, if you think of the space program, and especially the International Space Station, you think of this thing, it's, going around, orbiting around the Earth 20 about every 50 minutes. And during that, what it has is it has a solar array, photovoltaic cells that are facing the sun, and so it's run electrically that way. But in the early space program and a lot of space type applications, you can't always orient yourself towards the sun, and so you need another way of producing energy, and you can't, it's not practical, and you don't have any oxygen to burn coal or gasoline up there. So there's this thing called a fuel cell, and a fuel cell is I'll go on and give you the definition. It's at the bottom of the page, so we can sort of understand what it is. It is an electrochemical cell that produces electricity by converting chemical energy directly into electricity. And what is really good about them is they release high amounts of energy with very low pollution. I actually probably know a little bit more about this than most people because my father many years ago was involved in energy type technologies, and he worked on clean coal technologies, but then at the end of his career, the thing that he was working on was fuel cells. And we even have, it's at my sister's house, we have a fuel cell in a piece of clear plastic, that lucite stuff. And these things produce a huge amount of electricity. And they run on, we had said, it's an electrochemical cell. So it's a chemical reaction where you produce electricity directly. And the space program uses these, just to make that connection. But also places where you don't have, you're off grid, there are a lot of industrial ways of using these because they produce a lot of electricity. A single fuel cell, and I said we have one, it's about 3 feet long and maybe that big around. It will produce 100 kilowatts of electricity, and that's enough electricity to run about 100 homes. And it does it by using various types of chemicals, and the one that is talked about in your book is a hydrogen gas fuel cell. So you take hydrogen gas and it combines with oxygen and produces a whole lot of electricity. And what is its pollutant? Water. So we say the fuel cells release high amounts of energy with very low pollution. It's water. It's not bad for you. It's good. It's like really the only energy producing technology that really produces something that is absolutely harmless, and it's not only harmless, it's necessary for life. But what is the drawback? Do you remember the Hindenburg? It was that giant balloon came over from Germany, I think it was, and it got to somewhere in New Jersey and it decided to explode. It's hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas is very explosive. So fuel cell powered cars, there's some resistance, correctly so, to using them, but you can literally put your nose on the tailpipe and other than drowning, maybe, it doesn't produce anything bad at all. So these have been in use for a really long time. It's just hard, what is the problem? How do you get the hydrogen? How do you get the hydrogen? So again, we say this produces virtually no pollution. But where do you get the hydrogen gas? Oh, you have to boil water. You can extract it from water. And the problem with that is it takes a lot of energy to do that. So, so you're back to the fossil fuel again. Except that they're now starting to, remember we'd said we have these photovoltaic solar cells and they make electricity, but we have that other kind, the other kind that's like a magnifying glass that's concentrating the sun's energy on one spot, and we said it can be used to boil water. It can be used to make hydrogen gas. And so if you combine those two technologies, this is a great technology for producing energy. So, okay, so there's different kinds of ones, but it had never really caught on. Again, it's because you have to have the right kind of energy and different ways of making this stuff. Oh, I do have one quote in my notes here that I was forgetting about. Jules Verne, what is it, 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's a really old book, but a quote from that book, no, it's actually not from that book, it's from his book, The Mysterious Island, written in 1874. He said, water one day will be exploited as a fuel, and that hydrogen and oxygen will furnish inexhaustible sources of heat and light. It was like so much science fiction. These predictions, they come true. Who knew? That's the 1800s. They were predicting that we would be able to use fuel cells or something like that, and use the water as the source of the energy. Okay, well, I have one more topic to talk about, and maybe I'll just go on and finish it here because I don't know what I'll write on the board. But it's mimicking photosynthesis. So we had said plants. Plants are photosynthetic. Plants capture sunlight energy by having an electron be excited, and it jumps off, and that electron carries excess energy. So if we can produce a dye that will cause an electron to jump off, what is electricity? The flow of electrons. So if we can do exactly what happens in photosynthesis, and we can get these electrons to jump off, we can maybe be able to produce limitless amounts of energy from the sunlight by trying to mimic what is already being done in nature. So we have that where you can use it to split water. There's all kinds of possibilities. Split water to release hydrogen. So you can, and as part of photosynthesis, when you're liberating that electron, what you're actually doing is you're splitting a water molecule. And that's what Jules Verne was talking about. He was saying you have hydrogen dioxide. That's what water is, H2O. So if you break it apart, then you end up with hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. And they're already doing this. They've engineered some algae, single cell plants, to make hydrogen gas. So that's off in the distance in our future, but it's a possibility. That's it for chapter 7. Oh, yoo-hoo! Okay, so I'll get these posted, and we'll talk about this again Wednesday morning.